training in prestigious Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, Chennai. He also trained in interactive teaching methodology of Samskrita Bharati to teach Samskrita and serves as a volunteer since 2004. As a director of research at Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandira, Chennai. And here his work includes compilation and translation of texts and papers related to yoga, critical edition and translation of hitherto unpublished works of yoga that are inscribed in palm leaf and other such material. His efforts in this direction have thus far yielded 14 books on textual aspects of yoga and Vedas. He has translated in entirety Vyasa's commentary, the Yoga Sutras, into Tamil, which was published in 3 volumes. He has also published 12 research papers in Indian and international peer-reviewed research journals on yoga. He regularly blogs on meanings of various Vedic mantras in Sanskrit metrical compositions with translations. He is one of the resource people to deliver training. He is one of the resource people, in fact, to deliver training program in Indian research methodology. So now we predominantly use the Western research methodology. However, we have Jayaraman sir, who has been teaching the Indian research methodology across the globe. He works specifically in the areas of textual studies and research in yoga. He has traveled across India and many parts of US and Europe to conduct workshops and present papers in conferences related to yoga, Sanskrit and Indic research methodology. His special focus currently is to develop interactive methods to teach texts of yoga to facilitate an immersive learning experience. He's also one of the leading hands in coming up with a digital repository of yoga called Yoga Vaisharadi. It's a web application that is developed with an objective to facilitate easy access to the classical commentaries and yoga sutras of Patanjali. So my dear friends, let's once again welcome Shri Jayaraman Mahadevan to this wonderful event wherein we get a thorough orientation for the next 10 days to purify ourselves and move towards becoming a better human being and take up the path of spirituality and live a beautiful life for ourselves and for the welfare of the globe. So it's over to Shri Dr. Jayaraman Mahadevan. Welcome once again. Suswagatam.
Namaste. I would like to commence with a couple of invocation verses. There was a very beautiful Vedic invocation already. I would add 2 more. One for sage Patanjali and also one more for Mother Goddess, Mata Shakti.
Sir, you are on mute. Please unmute, Jayaraman sir.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu matrurupena samsthita namastasyai 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 namo namaha. Namaste. This is a beautiful auspicious evening where this is the commencement of Navaratra Utsava, where Mother Goddess Shakti is worshipped as goddess of strength, goddess of knowledge, and goddess of resource or wealth. So, and in this context or in this beautiful occasion, in this parva, in this festival, joyous occasion, sacred occasion, Nirakula Yoga and Sattva have joined together to host the series of lectures on a very important, very relevant, very essential topic, Chittashuddhi, that everyone have to each of us have to think every day, reflect every moment, work towards Chittashuddhi. So it's a beautiful idea that they have come up with. So at the outset, I would like to congratulate Sattva and Nirakula for organizing this event. And I also thank dear Swarupa for the generous introduction. Now, without much delay, I would like to go into my topic. I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. So, as you can see, Chittaparikarma for Serenity and Chittashuddhi. So, this is the topic for this evening. So, in line with the theme Chittashuddhi, and also Chittashuddhi, if the Chitta is Shuddha, the mind is pure and clean, naturally serenity will also descend. So, towards that, Chittaparikarma is the concept as has been described in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So, we will explore this. Now, in the present context, we see that in our Vedic tradition, Purusharthas, what is our life? What are we heading towards? It is towards Purusharthas that we are traveling. So our ancient sages, rishis, they have given us this beautiful concept of Purushartha, the 4 worthy goals to be pursued and achieved. Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. And in this process, in reaching these 4 goals of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, we understand, it's a practical understanding that we need knowledge, we need Shakti, and we also need wealth, which is also part of Artha, as part of the Purushartha. So Vidya, Shakti and Dhana, Vitta, these 3 are needed towards attaining the Purushartha. So these capabilities are personified as Saraswati, Lakshmi and Durga. There are deeper dimensions also of the ideas behind Saraswati, Lakshmi and Durga, but this is one understanding that we can see, that these powers or these faculties in us of knowledge, strength and wealth, resources, they are needed towards our Purusharthas as has been given to us by our Vedic tradition. So towards the goal of Purushartha, we have to acquire these 3, Vidya, Shakti and Dhana, and the divinities Saraswati, Lakshmi and Durga are the personifications of these powers. Now, in systematically developing these faculties in us, Vidya, Shakti and Dhana, we need Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Shanti. A mind which is calm, settled, focused, only can gradually attain this knowledge, strength and wealth through which Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha can be reached. So, in this process, we understand that in the process of acquiring Vidya, Shakti and Vitta, so they are very challenging. So it's a practical experience in everyone's life that attaining knowledge, attaining wealth and attaining strength, capability, physical capability are challenges, and they come with distractions also. There is a beautiful shloka in Sanskrita which says, Vidya vivadaya dhanam madaya shakti paresham paripidanaya khalasya sadho viparitametat jnanaya danaya cha rakshanaya. What happens is knowledge, if it is attained in the right way and used in the right purpose, it leads to, or learning, Vidya should be put as learning. So if learning is in the right direction, then it should gradually lead us to knowledge. So better unraveling of our own nature. So our own higher nature, our own purer purposes in life. But if one is distracted in the process of attainment of knowledge, then what happens? He ends up wrangling. He ends up in vivada, unnecessary entanglements, in arguments. So there is a possibility in the process of attaining vidya to get diverted and go in the path of vivada rather than going towards jnana, through which again purusharthas can be attained. And in the process of attaining wealth, what happens? If it is done in the right way, if one has the right orientation in acquiring wealth, then what happens? It ends up in dana, happy experiencing of wealth, and also sharing it with happiness. So that happens. But again, if there is lack of peace or lack of chitta samadhana, lack of focus, lack of understanding with regard to money, then what happens? It leads to arrogance. A shanta chitta, a peaceful mind, will not only attain money for itself, it will attain the wealth for sharing. Whereas a unsettled mind, a distracted mind, so will end up attaining arrogance with wealth. And then this is the same with the Shakti also. Again, Shakti or energy or power or strength that is attained, and with a right orientation, with a settled mind, with a Shanta Chitta and a Shuddha Chitta, with a peaceful mind and also a clean mind with good orientation, that Shakti will lead to Rakshana. That is protection. Protection for oneself and protection of people all around. Again, in the process of attaining or after attaining the power or strength or position, all those things, if the orientation is not there, if the mind is not pure, if there is no Chittashuddhi, if there is no Chitta Shanti, then it leads to harming of others. So in this Navaratrotsava, where we see Vidya, Dhana and Shakti are worshipped, we also see that in the process of achieving it and achieving with the right orientation, there are problems. If attainment of wealth, if attainment of knowledge, and if attainment of strength are not oriented or is not based on a pure intention and a calm approach to life, then it will lead to all these negative outcomes whereby life becomes misery for oneself and for others. So all of us, we want happiness, we want peace, and we want to move towards higher and raise towards higher and higher purpose in life. Worthier goals we need to achieve. So which can be attained through knowledge, sharing and protection. So protection of oneself and protection of people around. So for this, we essentially understand that a Shanta Chitta is needed and a Shuddha Chitta is needed, only by which we can attain all these and then move towards those worthier goals. So for this, for both Chitta Shanti and for Chitta Shuddhi, most of you who have assembled here may be aware of yoga, and who is not aware of yoga these days? So everyone globally, both in India and abroad, everyone is aware that yoga has the potential to grant shanti to the mind, and yoga has the potential to grant shuddhi to the mind. A mind that is a shanta and shuddha can progress in the path, as just in the path of Vidya, Dhana and Shakti, towards the Purusharthas and realizing the purpose of life and leading a life that is useful for oneself and also to for the benefit of others, and leaving behind a worthy legacy. Now, when we speak of yoga as an instrument that bestows Shanti and Chitta, we see many references regarding how yoga has a cleansing, calming and regulating effect on the mind and its activities. The very definitions of yoga bring about that. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. This is the Yoga Sutra, very popular maxim or statement, which commentators interpret that gradually reducing tamasic and sattvic vrittis, and then proliferation of a sattvika vrittis. So a mind with a sattvika vritti naturally is calm and also cleansed. It is because of rajas and tamas that the mind gets agitated, impure, and it is distracted. So by definition itself, yoga, as per Yoga Sutras, is it regulates and reduces rajas and tamas, the negative tendencies and propensities, and will lead a good focus or give a good focus to life. Also, we see in various other yogic scriptures, manah prashamanopayaha yogaha. Yoga is an activity that calms, or yoga is that which calms the mind. And then samatvam yoga uchyate. All these definitions very clearly bring out the calming and cleansing effects of yoga. No doubt about it. Even in Taittiriya Upanishad, we see yoga atma. So when I spoke about the higher and worthier goals of life, we need a very strong Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha means the realm of intellect. Our intellect should be very strong. Intellect means that which is capable of taking the right decision. So intellect is the one that takes the decision. And if intellect has to take the right decision, so then yoga should be its soul. That's what the Upanishad says. So it even gives a direction to the intellect, yoga. So it calms, it cleanses, and also it gives a direction to the intellect. That is the references. And so many other research evidences are also building, which also proves the point how yoga promotes the positive kind of the sympathetic, and all those descriptions are there. Those scientific terms are also there, where the calming effect, relaxing effect, and cleansing effect of yoga is explained in scientific terminology also. Now, when we speak of yoga, there are n number of varieties of schools and thoughts and systems and tools of yoga. Even in Yoga Sutras themselves, we see Ashtanga Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Abhyasa Vairagya. So many sets of tools of yoga are presented in Yoga Sutras themselves. Then Hatha Yoga Pradipika, then Mantra Yoga, then Laya Yoga, Nada Yoga, Amanaska Yoga. So many types of yogas are there. Current focus, as has been introduced, is Yoga Sutras. So we will be focusing on the tools of yoga from the Yoga Sutras, which will lead to Chittashuddhi and Chittashanti. And even among Yoga Sutras, Ashtanga Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Abhyasa Vairagya, these are well known. And also the later scholars who will be speaking in the series will be highlighting these aspects. I would like to specifically focus on one set of tools which will contribute to the goals of yoga, that is the cleansing, calming, and regulating effect on the mind. So one such set of tools, we call it as Chittaparikarma. It is found in Yoga Sutras themselves, but it is not noticed that much. So we will see something unique from Yoga Sutras in terms of Chittaparikarma, and why we need to look into Chittaparikarma, and what kind of a calming and cleansing effect by practicing it, by understanding and by internalizing and practicing it, how it leads to calming and regulating effect. So that will be the focus in the upcoming few moments that I will be sharing. Now, I would like to initially present the classical context. In Yoga Sutra, where is this parikarma? Is it mentioned in the Yoga Sutras themselves? Do we find the term parikarma in Yoga Sutra? This term parikarma appears in the Vyasa Bhashya. So as an introduction to the set of sutras 1.33 to 1.39 in first chapter, that is sutras 33 to 39, Vyasa introduces those 7 sutras as Yasya Chittasya Avasthitasya Idam Shastrena Parikarma Nirdishyate. So the Shastra now speaks about Parikarma for Chitta. So this Shastra in the upcoming section of 7 sutras is going to speak about Parikarma for Chitta. Now what is Parikarma? Pari is all round, karma is action. In the context, it is preparation, an all round complete preparation of the mind. Now we see in the context that in Sutra 1.40, the text speaks about samapatti, means attainment of samadhi. So towards attainment of samadhi, or to make the mind capable of attaining that samapatti, the mind has to be prepared, and the mind has to be thoroughly prepared. So parikarma is an all-round, complete, comprehensive preparation of the mind towards samapatti. Samapatti is a very high state of focus of the mind. So towards that samapatti, with parikarma in the 7 sutras, so preparation is advised. So that is the context we find in Yoga Sutra. It also says in those 7 sutras, we see which are parikarma, a complete all-round preparation of the mind towards a samapatti, a state of a state of high absorption of the mind, high focus of the mind, a sattvic state of mind. So we see how is the mind transported to, or how is the transformation of the mind brought about by these 7 tools. The sutras themselves say through Chittaprasadanam, by bringing about a pleasant state of mind, which indicates by reducing the agitation of the mind, and also manasaha sthitihi. So also the sutras indicate that also stabilizing the mind, the stuttering mind or the distracting mind is stabilized by these parikarmas. And the mind that is agitated, anxious, worried, suffering, so that mind is also consoled. So by consoling the mind and also by stabilizing the mind, by chitta prasadanam and manasaha sthitihi, gradually the mind moves to the state of ekagra bhumi, single pointed focused state. And from that ekagra bhumi, then the chitta can move into the desired state of samapatti, a state of absorption, a state of sattvic experience, a state where sattva manifests very well. So this is the process, or this is the context in which this chitta parikarma is presented in Yoga Sutras. So chitta prasadanam and manasaha sthitihi, these are the goals, and this is the title of the talk also. So we are working, or we are thinking about, we are discussing about attaining stability, cleansing, and also regulation. So that exactly is discussed in this set of sutras. So though this samapatti is for higher yogic spiritual purposes, in our current context, in our day-to-day life also, these practices, so when they are incorporated in the level with which we can incorporate them, then it will have their own effect. So because what the sutra speaks is for yogis, yes, who are fully devoted for the yogic goal of prakriti, purusha, viveka, and attainment of establishment in the pure consciousness. So that is also there. Even for us the common people who are transacting and going on with the life, the day-to-day life, wisdom, useful wisdom, we can absorb to the extent possible, and then we can move towards a better quality of life. So in that sense, we can look at these parikarmas for chitta shanti and chitta shuddhi. Now, so these sutras, beginning from Maitri Karuna, those who are aware of Yoga Sutras, they can consult the text. So from Maitri Karuna, Prachardana Vidharana, Vishayavati Pravritti, Jyotishmati Pravritti, Vitaraga Vishayam, Swapna Nidra Jnanalambanam, and Yathabhimata Dhyanam. So these are the 7 sutras in which the Chitta Parikarma, the 7 steps, are spoken of. I will briefly introduce all these things, and before that, I mentioned that there are other tools of yoga, such as other methods or other sadhanas of yoga, like Ashtanga Yoga, Kriya Yoga, and Abhyasa Vairagya. And when they are there, what is the uniqueness of discussing these? There are a few points. Why should we focus on Chitta Parikarma? Because normally, generally, there is a stereotyping or there a pinhole view about yoga has been developed, unfortunately. That is, yoga is physical practices, breath regulation, the bandhas, kriyas, etc. Of course, yoga is this. But if one limits only to this, then it would be called as a pinhole view of yoga. It is as if looking into the room through a pinhole. That is, it will not give the complete view. Of course, these are there, but these parikarmas, when we look into it, it will as if add vast estates, or it will help kind of expand our understanding of yoga through this. So with that purpose also, I intend to introduce. I don't say that I will be able to give a complete discussion of all these things. I'm just introducing parikarma, which will, in a way, in its own limited way, help in liberating us from the pinhole view of yoga. Because all of us who are in the field of yoga, we understand that yoga is all these and also much beyond and deeper. So those who are merely put away by, oh, I have to exert myself physically. Of course, nothing comes without some kind of an effort or hard work. But yoga, there are other dimensions of yoga also. So which we can slowly get into and then gradually move into these commonly known planes of yoga. So we see that through these 7 sutras, we see that it is not the time that we spend on the yoga mat alone, that is, then we are yogis or practitioners of yoga. By these parikarmas, every moment of our life can be influenced, or every moment of our life can also be favorably guided. So to bring yoga much more closer to life. So that's why, again, this process of parikarma I am trying to introduce. And also, there are human beings, though their physical form looks very simple, as can be experienced by our own selves, and also as has been stated in our scriptures. In Taittiriya Upanishad, we see Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. We are a complex, we are made up of so many layers. Human life is not as plain as it looks from outside. Each of us, we understand that how many layers we are made up of. So these 7 parikarmas, they utilize all these layers and try to bring in favorable inputs for all those layers of our human existence, and through those effective strategies for each of the layer of our existence, then balance and repose, chitta shuddhi, chitta shanti is attempted, and so that we become focused and then move towards our goals of life. So when we speak of layers of our existence, what are the layers or what are the dimensions of life these chitta parikarmas touch? The emotional layer, of course, the body and breath is there. And then we have the sense organs, and then we have the mind that imagines, and then the world that we perceive outside, and then the world that is within, in terms of the dreams that we have, the deep sleep experience that have. So there is one waking awareness, and there is a dream world, and there is a deep sleep world that is within. So that realm is there. And then of course our choices, preferences, all those, our own calculations and our own judgments about various things are there. So these are the layers that are touched upon, or these dimensions of human life are beautifully or positively manipulated, or rather utilized by these chitta parikarmas to bring about peace and cleansing touch, so that again we progress to the intended higher goals of life. So this is the fixing of the context of an introduction, the purpose, and also where chitta parikarma is and what it proposes to grant, or how it favorably can bring in a beautiful calming and healing touch to our lives. Now I will briefly introduce all the 7 layers or all the 7 strategies for peace and cleansing or Chittashuddhi henceforth. Now the first parikarma, as I mentioned, is from the sutra Maitri Karuna Mudito Pekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Punya Vishayanam Bhavanatas Chitta Prasadanam. So human beings are emotional entities. So this sutra teaches us as to how to define our emotional responses to various situations. So when we are able to fine-tune our emotional responses to various experience, then thereby naturally emotional disturbances can be overcome. We see these days that people, because of their emotional disturbances, so lack of peace and happiness is experienced. So beautiful strategy at the level of emotion is presented here. So it says that and my explanations are based on the commentary of a great yogin, Sadashiva Brahmendra. So that brings in beautiful practical dimension. So he says that in people who are happy, so when we see people who are happy, we should have a feeling of friendliness towards them. Now, how does this help? So normally when we see people who are happy by attaining some kind of a promotion or some kind of a good employment or some kind of a development or improvement in life, when we don't, in their relation, we don't achieve those progress in life, then it is quite natural for us to be to feel envious or to feel bad or to feel depressed, etc. So Patanjali says, develop an attitude of friendliness. In the sense, Sadashiva Brahmendra explains that if your very dear friend, means you like him very much, like him or like her very much. So if your very dear friend achieves something, it is as if you have attained it. So by that person attaining that goal in life, we feel extremely happy. So in whoever attains something positive, some promotion or improvement in life, when we develop friendliness in them, as if whatever has been attained by him is as if attained by me, then what happens is that craving for my particular attainment of things in life, they subside to some extent. So by this, Sadashiva Brahmendra says, raga means passion to achieve this, achieve that, get this, get that, constant craving. So that comes down. So whoever is happy, so that happiness if I feel, if I associate myself with that happiness, my passion in or to attain those things, that come down. So raga is managed by this. This is the view of Sadashiva Brahmendra. And then when whoever is suffering, in people who are suffering, on seeing them, it is compassion that has to emerge in our mind. So the emotion of compassion that should come, it normally, so if someone suffers, then yeah, in most occasions we will feel that, oh, unfortunately he is suffering. But there is also a possibility that what happens, that, oh, you have got this suffering, you are suffering from this, it is your own karma, let there be such, you deserve to suffer. So such emotions are also there in our mind, which malign our mind, which make our mind impure. Though we may not express this verbally, sometimes people do verbalize it also, but mentally we sometimes feel about certain personalities. But Sutra says that whenever we see people suffering, when we bring about the sense of compassion in them, this dvesha, in the sense, oh, you deserve it, you deserve to achieve it, you deserve to experience that suffering. So that kind of a dvesha is overcome. It is as if I am suffering. See, previously, if someone has achieved something, I should feel as if I have achieved those things and feel content, feel happy. And similarly, if someone is suffering, we should feel compassion, we should feel that empathy, so that we don't develop any kind of dvesha in us. So if raga and dvesha, they subside, then naturally again the mind's impurities and mind's agitation comes down. These may sound impractical, but only when a high watermark is set, we can move towards that. We can all dismiss any teaching, any principle as impractical, impossible, beyond our capability. But unless we try, unless we put one step forward, we will never reach the goal, and everything will be beyond our grasp. And by that time, we would have completed our lifetime. So these are the high watermarks towards which we have to gradually move. So Acharya Sadashiva Brahmendra says, by Maitri, we overcome raga. By Karuna, we gradually overcome dvesha. And then when people are doing good, when people are doing goodness, or when they are spreading goodness, we should feel happiness. Then, in the sense, we should promote it. We should happily speak about it. We should happily discuss about it. We should happily share that good work with others. Then what happens, that when we praise about other person's goodness, and when we constantly share good news and good attitudes and good words and good deeds, then naturally we are motivated. We also are motivated to do those good actions. So this promotes, or this motivates us in the right direction. And when someone is indulging in negativities, someone is spewing negative actions, or someone is spewing negative words and expressing his negativity, which we see so much in social media today, it is good to neglect it, to bring in a sense of indifference. Again, when we start neglecting those acts of negativity, when we don't get drawn into those negative activities, then naturally whatever we neglect, we normally do not we don't constantly or it will not pop in our mind often. So Acharya Sadashiva Brahmendra clubs these two and says that when we always spread goodness, or spread good news, or spread something, someone, when he is doing good, when we spread that news or feel happy and speak a lot about it, then we are motivated to do good deeds. And then when we don't give much of a credence, much of an importance, and ignore negative words and negative deeds of others, then what happens? It moves away from the arena of our mind. So Acharya says that normally people will have paschattapa, means later they will feel very bad that I should have done good deeds in my life. I should have desisted from doing bad deeds in life. So people now normally have that paschattapa. They will feel guilty to have done certain bad deeds, or they will also feel guilty for not having done certain good deeds. So that paschattapa is universal, Sadashiva Brahmendra says. So how to overcome that paschattapa? By motivating ourselves of thinking constantly about good deeds and then neglecting bad deeds or being indifferent to bad deeds. We are speaking it from the point of view of the mind. So how to gradually prepare the mind? So by this we see, by this Chittaparikarma, the first Chittaparikarma, we avoid raga, we avoid dvesha, and this paschattapa, the later feeling of guilt, that is also overcome. A mind which is progressively free from raga, dvesha, and paschattapa, it is clean and it is calm. So this is the first approach. As I said, I have just introduced this concept. There is much more to explore, much more to think, much more to reflect. But I have just given an introduction, the emotional dimension of life. So that is dealt with. So when we constantly, I also mentioned that this is everyday life. Every moment of life, we meet so many people. We have to interact with so many people. We are emotionally connected with various people. So these are guidelines for every moment of life. So that's why I said yoga comes very closer when we look into these thoughts. And similarly, the second parikarma is about breathing. Of course, asana pranayama of the yogic dimension. This yogic dimension, this parikarma is very well known, where various quotations are there. Chalevate, chalam chittam. If the breath is regulated, the mind also becomes pure. And there is a lot of description about how exactly the breath regulation has to be done. And then when we speak about breath regulation, so mere pranayama does not or mere pranayama practice is not possible without asana, because in Yoga Sutra it has been clearly stated, or it is also an experiential understanding, that unless the body sufficiently is ready, breathing will not be, or our breath regulation activity will not be that successful. So breathing and asana. So when it is spoken about the breath regulation, asanas and pranayama are both mentioned. So be it inhalation, exhalation. So by the dirgha and sukshma, by all the pranayama techniques that all the yoga gurus are aware of, they have developed and they have innovated a lot. By this, again, the mind calms down. A calm, stable mind is not agitated, and again, it is Shuddha. So there is a lot of description on this. I'm skipping it. So I'm then moving to, because of the popularity or we are well aware of this second dimension. I'm quickly moving into the third dimension. The third dimension or third parikarma is at the level of the sense organs. So the first parikarma speaks about emotional regulation. The second parikarma was connected with the body and the breath, through which we bring about Chittashuddhi and Chittashanti. The third parikarma is connected to the sense organs. We see that the classical interpretation of this Chittaparikarma is the Vishayavativa Pravrittirutpanna Manasaha Sthiti Nibandhini. This parikarma speaks about a concept called as Vishayavati Pravritti. Vishayavati Pravritti, as per the classical description here, so based on Sadashiva Brahmendra's commentary, we see that in various parts of our sense organs, if the dharana, the holding of the mind is done, so nasikagre dharayataha, so when one focuses on the tip of the nostril on the tip of the nose, then Divya Gandha Samvit, that is, one experiences a divine fragrance. So when the divine fragrance is experienced, then naturally the mind absorbed by that divine fragrance calms down. Similarly, in the tip of the tongue, in the middle of the tongue, at the root of the tongue, the mind has to be fixed. Dharana has to be done, by which Divya Sparsha, divine sense of touch, will be experienced, and divine sounds will be heard, and then divine taste will be experienced, which means that these special dharanas which are mentioned classically in this third parikarma will give divine experiences to the senses and thereby calm the mind down. So this is the classical input that we see based on a dharana, which leads to Vishayavati Pravritti, means giving divine positive stimulus to the mind, or sublime stimulus to the sense organs, and thereby calming the mind down. So whether or not we will be able to hold the mind on the tip of the nose or tip of the tongue, middle of the tongue, root of the tongue, that is there. So whoever is initiated by a guru may be able to do it, but at a general understanding. So how can we practice this Vishayavati Pravritti to calm our senses down? When we just attend any puja in a temple or even at our home. So every day, this Navaratri, we will be doing various pujas where we see in any puja, all the 5 sense organs are involved. So we chant mantra, and then we wave the lamp, or the lamp is lit, and then the incense is lighted, the gandha is done, and then we beautifully decorate the divine form of God or goddesses. So in this way, all this gives positive stimulus to the senses. So when the mind, when the mind is thus attracted or is presented a divine experience through all the 5 senses, it naturally calms down. So that's why when people visit the temple, they feel, I feel a sense of calmness here. How to explain that? People generally say, oh, this is a calm experience. Now, what is the meta details of that experience? The details of the experience is, there was a positive stimulus to the eyes, ears, smell, and even taste. Finally, we get prasada and come back home. We taste it. So in this way, and it's not merely any food item. We take the food item with utmost respect. When it falls down, we are very careful that it is disposed of properly. We should not touch it with the feet. So there is an element of positivity, element of divinity through the puja that we do. So that brings in positive stimulus. So this is also yoga. So doing a worship which engages all the 5 senses favorably, that to me, that to my understanding, can be called as Vishayavati Pravrittihi. So when the senses calm down, then naturally the mind calms down. And even when we are in the presence of a divine entity or in the before a statue, even our negative tendencies, they also calm down, and then we experience what can be called as Chittashuddhi. Because even Yoga Rahasya, in Yoga Rahasya, Krishnamacharya, that is in Nathamuni's Yoga Rahasya, that was retrieved by Acharya Krishnamacharya, he says, Vishayeshu Vishatmasu. So when the senses go unregulated, all that it brings in is toxicity. Vishaya, objects of the senses, become Visha. And that Visha, we know what havoc it wreaks. So these activities of positively presenting some divine stimulus to the senses. So all these pujas, rituals, that has yoga at its core of regulating the senses in a positive manner. So, and then Vishokava Jyotishmati, I would request that I be granted a few more minutes to present all these. So it will take 10 more minutes to complete this description. So then the 4th parikarma is Jyotishmati pravritti. So the third parikarma was at the level of the senses, which is Vishayavati pravritti. So a pravritti or a special activity of the mind which is based on the objects of the senses, Vishayas. And now this is Jyotishmati pravritti. What is this Jyotishmati pravritti? Again, this is from the classical context. We see that when the mind is left alone, it imagines various things. We worry. So the sources of anxiety, worry, the complexes, the phobias, the depression, and various other detrimental tendencies. That is because of the vikalpa nature of the mind. So it keeps imagining, and it deposits on itself so many negativities, and because of that, many times our mind, we don't befriend our mind. We are afraid of our mind. We are afraid to stay alone because our mind throws up so many things. We seek company because we need not look back into our mind, and all those negativities come up. So, but vikalpa also can be positively used. So this Jyotishmati pravritti puts to use that capability of imagining of the mind in a positive way. See, previously also the sense organs can run behind the objects and bring in a lot of toxicity. Similarly, the mind let alone can bring in lot of toxicity. So in the sense, imagining being in its own realm, it can develop all these negative tendencies and can descend to the depths of depression. So that's also possible. So in this Jyotishmati pravrittihi, the classical description given to that is, so in the yogic heart, that is in this chakra, in this the heart chakra, so the mind has to be focused, and the mind itself is the object of meditation, and the mind has to be meditated upon as a source of light. The mind has to be thought of as of a brilliant light. So the mind has to be visualized. We have to visualize that our mind shines with the brightness of the sun, moon, and it is glittering like gold and diamond. So that is, and this is not my words, these are the descriptions from the commentaries, like the Chandra Prakasha, the Surya Prakasha, the glitters of all the ornaments. So those brilliant lights, so that has to be imagined. So the mind is to be visualized as such a glowing entity. So the mind, the self-same mind, which can dive into the depths of negativity, so it can also be engaged on a daily basis, as we can just sit and meditate upon the mind as a positive entity full of light and not full of darkness. Actually, there is a mantra. So if we cannot simply sit and focus upon the mind as a glowing source of light like the sun or the moon, there is a mantra, there is a Vedic mantra. Prana pana vyanodana samana me shuddhyantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuya saggaswaha. This mantra says that Jyotiraham, I am light. Virajaha, free from rajas, and vipapma, I am free from any negativities. It's a positive suggestion to oneself with a visualization of one's own mind as light. So if we cannot meditate upon the mind as light, at least we can chant this mantra which says, I am not a sinner. I am not full of negativity. I am light. I am free from sins. I am free from negativity. I am free from rajas. So this mantra, and also the meaning when we reflect upon it. So that's a long mantra which is there in the Mahanarayana Upanishad. So this can bring about a positive change. In our yoga center, we have used this mantra to great effect, and people who come with various difficulties, that they feel a positive touch, they feel hope, they see light. So through this mantra and this visualization, that also calms the mind down and also cleanses. So a positive auto suggestion or visualization with mantra. So this is very helpful in bringing about a sense of light and positivity. And the fifth parikarma is vitaraga vishayam va chittam. So this is again, when I spoke, so emotional level, body breath, sense organs, the imagining mind, and then we see so many people outside. We can also get inspired by people outside. It is not that, so the world is full of negativities, so there are so many positive people who are there to inspire us. We can look for such positive examples. So this vitaraga vishayam va chittam advises, through this sage Patanjali advises to look at those people who have attained very great levels in their life. Like the example that is given in the classical text is Shuka Maharshi. Sadashiva Brahmendra in his commentary mentions about one character, Shuka Maharshi, who was very pure. So it is described in the Bhagavata Purana that what kind of purity, how Shuka Maharshi has expanded himself. It is exemplified in Bhagavata Purana. When Shuka, the son of sage Vyasa, was renouncing his worldly attachment and leaving his house, then Vyasa the father sees his son going far ahead, far away from him. Then, oh my son Shuka, when Vyasa is calling, then it is not Shuka who responded, bye bye father. It is not Shuka who responded. It is the trees around him through which he was passing. The trees spoke on behalf of Shuka, the trees and other beings that are there around him through which he was passing. They responded to sage Vyasa, father, goodbye. Which means yam pravrajantam anupetam apeta krityam dvaipayano virahakatara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravaha abhinedu. The trees responded because Shuka had expanded his life to such an extent that he was not limited to this his limited bodily frame. He has expanded his awareness and consciousness and compassion to everything, that the trees spoke on behalf of Shuka to his father. So in this way, Shuka is one such great example of Vitaraga, a person who has transcended Raga, Dvesha, etc. Positive personality, great personalities. So Ramana Maharshi and so many other sages we see. So human life needs such a concrete, tangible models of inspiration. We need a Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, we need a Ramana Maharshi, we need a Vishwamitra, Bhagiratha, Vivekananda, Dhruva, Prahalada, so many. Even very great personalities like Gandhiji. Gandhiji was inspired in his path of ahimsa and truthfulness by the story of Harishchandra. And Shivaji Maharaja was inspired for all the glorious deeds that he did by listening to the story of Rama and Krishna and their heroic deeds. So in this way, for normal beings and also us, the normal beings, the common people and also the great people, inspiration is needed, guidance is needed, role models are needed. So it says that by looking at positive role models, the mind gets consoled. The mind gets convinced that yes, life can be led in that manner also. It is, we can follow those positive models, tangible models, concrete examples, and then make our lives better. So this is the fifth parikarma. So life can have this dimension also for Chittashuddhi and Shanti. And then the sixth tool we see, Swapna Nidra Jnanalambanam Va. This is an interesting dimension that most of us might not have. So all the previous things you might have heard, this is an interesting, unique dimension. We see that by looking into our own dream experiences, by looking into our own deep sleep experiences, the mind can be calmed down. Have we ever, after waking up, sat quietly and looked back at our dream experiences and deep sleep experiences? Most of the time we might not have done. We wake up with the alarm ringing, and then, oh, the time is already up, I'm late, then we simply sprint out of our bed. Or we may, due to various reasons, might not have got the restful sleep at all. So in this way, sleep and dream experiences are potentially unexplored areas. So in Yoga Sutra, it says that a person who can look back at his own dream and deep sleep experience. So if one had really had a good deep sleep, then what happens? One can sit and then think about how he was experiencing a very relaxed state. So there was no worries, no concerns, no anxieties at that state. So one can bring to mind one's own deep sleep experience we would have had in our life, now if not yesterday or last week, a few weeks ago, we might have experienced a very good sleep. So bring back to the mind that deep sleep experience. So then what happens? Then the mind calms down, and it also gives a hope to the mind that yes, it is me who experienced that, and it is me who is suffering now. So it is in my hand to move from this state of suffering to that state. It is possible, it is within my reach. So that kind of, this is a very personal, intimate experience that we have within, so which we can hold on to and then go back to our peaceful, happy, blissful state. And also, speaking about the dreams, in dreams we might have experienced some divine personality, or we would have visited a beautiful, wonderful spot, natural scenery, we would have experienced it. And we would have also visited certain temples. All those dream experiences would also be there. So they can also be recollected. Some spiritual teacher might have come in our dreams, some temples we would have seen in the dreams, or some natural scenery which really gave a pleasant experience. So that is a swapna anubhava. So all those can also be revisualized. So people normally dismiss their dream and sleep experiences, but Yoga Sutra advises that don't let them go. It is your tool or key to calmness. So that is a tool that we see. And people may say, I never get good sleep, I never get good dreams, all that I get is nightmares. So how do I get those? If at all possible, how do I get those positive dream and deep sleep experience? Then we have to look into ahara, vihara and vyavahara. If our diet, if we can refine it, fine tune it, and then if our exercise regimen, if we can look into it, and then how we transact, what we speak, what we think, vyavahara, transaction, if they can be regulated, naturally their influence will be there. All that we do in our waking state will have their own impact on the deep sleep and the dream state. So if we tweak our waking experience, waking activity, naturally our dream and deep sleep experiences will be good, and they can be utilized for calming and cleansing the mind. And then finally, yathabhimata dhyanadva. So meditate or think about any object one desires, or any object that gives a whenever I think of this particular personality, or this particular place, or this particular picture, this particular spiritual person, or this particular divinity, my mind calms down. So if there is one such entity, then take recourse to that, and that also gives a mooring or a support for the mind to hold on to and calm down. It is by this Patanjali emphasizes that we should have certain preferences about certain or we should develop certain positive objects of focus for ourselves. Looking into our own tendencies, we should develop our own Ishta Devata. The very concept of Ishta Devata comes here. And the beauty of Hindu Dharma is it gives us so many divinities of so many forms. So, ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. In whatever way someone approaches me, I approach. If the worshipper is a pahalwan, then the god is Hanuman. So in this way, whatever is my nature of my mind, accordingly I can choose a divinity. So if my mind loves the child form, then Balakrishna is there. Mother form, mother goddess is there. So in this way, various forms of divinities are there. So the Yoga Sutra commentaries, they mention about taking up one form of divinity. So and then allowing the mind to dwell upon it and then attain calm and peace. And even Bhojaraja, in his commentary, he mentions this as Ekatattva also. So by this also, we see Chittashuddhi and Shanti. So summing up, we see that these 7 steps, they connect with the emotional responses, the body and the breath, positive stimulus to the senses, positivity about oneself, not always thinking or seeing mind as an entity of negativity, but visualizing the mind, facilitating our own perception about ourselves as a positive entity of light and knowledge. And then stories play an important role, learning about various personalities, positive personalities. So that helps. That is also yoga. Listening to stories also is yoga, according to Patanjali, Vitaraga Vishaya. So learning about their lives, and then very intimate experience of dreams and deep sleep. And finally, taking support or meditating upon, thinking of any one divine form which is of our liking, and then allowing the mind to settle down. Last, I know I have exceeded the time, but to make a useful ending to this, I see that these seem to be so many ideas, but they can be beautifully incorporated into life when we think about how to incorporate them in our dinacharya, in our day-to-day life. We can incorporate them into these. These are not some high ideals or not impossible deeds. So these can be incorporated into life. So we can journal our emotions. Every day or twice a week, we can write about our emotions and then compare them with Maitri Karuna, etc. So have we followed the Maitri Karuna scale? Have we emoted based on the Maitri Karuna teachings? And then regarding the second parikarma, Prachardana Vidharana, daily committed, motivated practice of asana and pranayama as per the teacher's guidance, that is needed. So that can be incorporated, some 15 minutes every day. So that can also bring about a positive change in life. Then having a pure, clean place of worship in house, whichever is the divinity, whichever is the form, we should have lighting an incense, lighting a lamp, and making that sound, the positive sound, uttering the mantras. So we should have all these. Will not take even 5 minutes. So this can be done, giving a favorable, positive stimulus to the senses. And then, as I said, meditating upon them. Whatever mantra we chant or we don't chant, doesn't matter. We should visualize ourselves as positive entities endowed with a mind which is comparable to light and not darkness. So chanting this mantra of Jyotiraham and visualizing our mind as a entity of light. Again, this will not again take too much of a time. And then reading and listening about positive personalities at least once a week. We can choose biographies, we can choose autobiographies, we can listen to harikathas, the pravachanas. All those things are full of vitaraga vishaya. So in this way, at least once a week, we can choose, and we can have a target for a year. So in this year, I will choose these personalities, understand about them, and then model myself on them. This is also yoga. This has been spoken by Patanjali as to model ourselves based on personalities who have progressed in the path and achieved the goal. And also, immediately after waking up, looking back at one's own sleep experience. How was it? What kind of a sleep experience or a dream experience I had? So looking on it will also reflect on the status of our life. This can also be done, will be taking only a few moments. And then finally, having an Ishta Devata, having a Griha Devata, having a Kula Devata as a mooring, as a support. So in any work, in any case of anxiety or worry, if we have one such solid support in the form of Ishta Devata, Griha Devata and Kula Devata, then that itself will give a solid harboring to our life in the sense. So all these tools, which are very much practical, very close to life. We see that if we don't have time to all these things, to incorporate all these things in the monk who sold his Ferrari book, Robin Sharma says that if we don't say that these are impossible, impractical, then it will be like saying that I don't have time to stop for gas because I'm very busy driving. Gas here means petrol. So, and then all lasting changes need time and effort. Persistence is the mother of personal change. All these have to be systematically, slowly, they have to be brought in life. And then one by one, not all the 7 need to be crammed into one's life on day 1. Systematically insert an activity in your routine. By doing it the same way and the same time every day, it quickly grows into a habit. So these are parikarmas, are very good habits which are to be slowly, progressively, systematically inserted into our life so that we have a positive change. We have a better life. So these are the ways to befriend the mind. So as Krishna says, Uddhared Atmanatmanam Bandhuratma. Make your mind a friend by using these approaches. Whomever the mind is a friend, then life is very happy. This is the path to peace and purity. We can incrementally, progressively achieve this. See, all these 7 steps, when in distress, we cannot think of bringing in all these 7 at the point of suffering. At every day, these have to be gradually inculcated so that even when we are afflicted by suffering, we are able to manage it, our life better without being rocked too much by the sufferings. We can have a steady and stable way of life. This improves quality of life, happiness, contentment, and for mental hygiene, these are very good tools. And as mentioned in the beginning, so even towards progressing to our higher goals of dharma, artha, kama and moksha, ultimately, these are the attitudes, these are the parikarmas, these are the holistic preparations that will lead us towards achieving our purusharthas. I end my words here. I understand I have exceeded, but sorry for that, but I thought I should bring it to a logical conclusion. I thank the organizers for the opportunity. We'll be happy to answer any questions if time permits.
Thank you, Shri Jayaramanji. It was a very useful talk, very practical, and we have definitely achieved the purpose of Chittashuddhi conceptually, and now it is up to us to take it as a practice. And we could just definitely feel the conviction with which you were speaking. That was clearly giving us an evident way of understanding how you practice these as well, and that's how you preach us. That was more convincing because you've been doing it and also teaching us. So, dear friends, when Jayaramanji told us that he has exceeded time, no, he's not exceeded time. Okay, these are timeless concepts. So we need to bring into our daily life, and we definitely want to engage, involve some of you to ask some meaningful questions, and we would definitely encourage you to ask some meaningful questions. And your questions will be definitely answered by Jayaramanji, Sri Jayaramanji. So let's go ahead now and take some questions. We wouldn't let you go unmute because of many reasons. So you can please put your thoughts in the chat box. So with that, we can moderate and we can take a very meaningful step. Can we get the mind concentration mantra, please? Jayaramanji.
Okay. It is, there are the essence is, it's a long mantra. It's a beautiful cleansing mantra from Mahanarayana Upanishad. I'll just chant only one line. There are so many such lines. Maybe I can share with Swarupa, Sri Swarupa, so that he can later share it with all the registered participants. I'll just chant one mantra. Later, I will give the mantras to the organizers. Pranapanavyanodana samaname shuddhyantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuya saggaswaha.
So we have a little more time to take up a few more questions.
Yeah.
Anyone, who wants to ask a specific questions? So we see that a lot of compliments coming in, and people are appreciating the talk. They're able to get a lot of quality answers to most of their questions in their life, probably. That's how we see it. The chats are placed. So anybody with a question, please take a minute and do ask the question. What are the steps one can take when what are the steps one can take when one does negative actions? So there's one question. So we commit a lot of negative actions without our own knowledge or sometimes knowledgeably. So what are the steps we can take up to eradicate the effects of those negative thoughts and negative actions?
The first thing is, in Manusmriti, we see Natmanam avamanyeta. One should not condemn oneself. The first step one should do, as Yadvai Manur avadat tad bheshajam. Manusmriti has been presented in various ways, or it has been quoted in so many other contexts. But one positive or very important thought that sage Manu gives us is na atmanam avamanyeta. The first step is not to condemn oneself for what one has done. In the sense, yes, of course, a wrong committed is of course a wrong thing. But if one very deeply condemns oneself, so that itself, that is not going to help. So one should then practically think about, in a balanced and a quiet manner, one should think about what exactly has the wrong that has been done, how it can be overcome. The point is, whatever bad karma we do, so in our Sanatana Dharma, whatever karma we do, the karma phala we have to experience. But all these mantras, all these chantings, or the pranayama, or so many other cleansing tools that are there to bring down the negative vibrations and tendencies that these negative actions, with or without our control, that we do, that happen. So by doing pranayama or all these practices, so we have spoken about a lot. So the first thing is not to condemn oneself, and second thing is just in a very calm manner analyze the situation, and then gradually work towards overcoming it, or not to commit it in future.
Thank you, Jayaramanji. Shri Jayaramanji, I have one more very important question here. He has addressed you as Acharya, and he also asked this question. Vishayeshu Vishatmasu. That point was rushed, I felt. Please explain again. Yes, that is something even I felt as a very important topic. So if you can share on that, it will be very useful to all of us.
No, the point is that the simple idea that was mentioned, there was that reference comes from Yoga Rahasya, where it speaks about if a mind which is not ready, the context of it is that a mind, if it is not ready, or if it is not balanced, or if it is controlled by the senses, then toxicity is brought in through the senses. So that is the point there. But if the mind is controlled, then the toxic inflow, or those unwanted inflow through the senses, they can be efficiently filtered out. So that is the context there. So of course, when we are out on the world, just like when we go out, we are we wear a mask so that we are not infected or we are not affected by the infection around. So what can be the inner mask that we can wear? Yoga is the inner mask that we can wear so that we are not affected by the toxicities of the world. And so many upayas of yoga are there. The parikarmas are one such set of inner masks which will help filter this the unwanted or negative stimulus that may come to the senses.
Well, we have one more important question. The question is around this concept of purity again. So how can we, is there a chance that we get back to impurity once we have cleaned it up? So what are the chances of it getting back to impure state is the question. And
the point is purity, it is not like washing the cloth and it becomes pure. It's a constant process. See, that is why we have, why do we practice yoga every day or anything? The nitya karmas are also there, so daily rituals are there. So why are they given every day, or why are they prescribed to be done every day, or why to go to that much? So why do we wash the vessels every day? Because the same unwashed or unclean vessel cannot be used for cooking for the next day. So it is very much possible that with all our exposure, with all our senses open, that we accumulate impurities. So the daily practice of yoga, the daily practice of meditation, daily reflection upon our activities. There is a beautiful Sanskrita shloka which says that what sets apart humans, or what's that is from other living beings, especially pratyaham pratyaveksheta narascharitam atmanah kinnu me pashubhistulyam kinnu satpurushairiva. Of course, there is always a possibility of negativity re-entering, but a mind that is vigilant, will not allow negativity within. So even in the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, why I go back to that book often is that that book itself is inspired by yoga, Vedanta, and other such philosophical treatises. So there also he says, only a mind that is acutely aware of its doings, so that can overcome negativity. There is one need not fear about the negativity is coming back or negative tendency is coming back. One should be steadfast with one's daily cleansing routines. If one is steadfast with daily cleansing routines, that is, it may be in the form of doing yoga, it may be doing in the form of doing sandhya vandana, it may be in the form of sitting before the puja room and chanting the mantras or shlokas for that day. So establishing a daily cleansing activity or mechanism will effectively, so it can be done in two ways: establishing a daily cleansing mechanism at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, so before going to bed and also immediately after waking up. So if we pack our day between these two cleansing activities, then we will be aware. Whoever is aware and whoever is conscious about what he is doing or she is doing, then naturally negativities will progressively come down. That is why there is an emphasis always on regularity of practice of whatever cleansing mode we are choosing. That has to be done regularly. Then there is, one need not fear about something like a ghost entering us, those negative tendencies entering us. If we fix a regular cleansing mechanism for ourselves, then we are safe. Even if there is a little bit of wavering here and there, we can regain our poise and stability by having this regularity in our daily cleansing practices.
Shri Jayaramanji almost stayed back, and it looks like there are many more questions. If you would be interested to entertain those questions, there are three broad questions. First one being, is there any commonalities or differences between the Vipassana Dhyana of Gautama Buddha Parampara, between that and Chittashuddhi as a concept? Is there a difference? That is the first broad question.
To be very honest, I have heard about the Buddhistic practices, but I have not gone into them. So my time, my activities, my focus have all been spent in Yoga Sutras, Yoga literature, and Yoga commentary. So see, but one essence is whatever is done to calm the mind. I don't, every Acharya who have left behind wisdom, they have given positive guidance only. They have, even Buddha in his Arya Satya, so all the fourfold path of dukkha, samudaya, all those, they match with Yoga Sutras. So in a broad sense, all the Shastras, be it Buddhism or be it Yoga, are for calming the mind. I don't have any specific comment holding up one as better and the other as lower, in speaking in the general sense.
Okay, one more broad question. Is forgiving oneself similar to confessions of Christianity?
Now, I made a distinction there itself. In our Hindu Dharma, in the Vedic Dharma, if I confess, it doesn't mean that I am absolved of my sins. Purvam kritam karma, it has to be experienced. But then why do we do all these anushtanas, various rituals and other things? It is not that all the sins will be washed away. Our negative tendencies will come down. So we will not degrade or deteriorate any further. So that thing is always there. So in that sense, whatever misdeeds that have been done, we have to, with a calm mind, we have to accept the consequences. But our Shastras, they prescribe so many methods only to help us avoid further degradation or deterioration. So in that sense, we can see the difference.
So wonderful answers. And I have one last question. So that's a very interesting question here. The question says, so sir, does this parikarma help us towards self-realization? If so, how?
I've already mentioned it. The original intended context in which Chittaparikarma is mentioned in Yoga Sutra is leading the mind to the state of samapatti. So when Maitri Karuna, Yathabhimata Dhyana, till Yathabhimata Dhyana, all these are practiced in the prescribed manner as has been presented in the Yoga Sutras. They lead the mind to ekagrata. And through ekagra, a mind which is in the ekagra state only can aspire to reach samadhi or samapatti. A mind that is in samadhi, so it gradually scales the heights of samadhis, because there are so many scales or heights of samadhis also. The samprajnata samadhi, there vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita, and then finally the mind which abides or stays in this progress finally attains the nirbija samadhi, and there the prakriti purusha viveka. So even in the process of samprajnata samadhi also, the prakriti purusha viveka becomes more and more clear, and finally at the state of nirbija samadhi, going by the yoga tenets, so the prakriti portion, it attains pratiprasava, it gets dissolved, and purusha remains or gets established in his pure form. So in this way, it is actually in the path towards the liberation or kaivalya that this parikarma is a very systematic stepping stone. But even for our day-to-day life, we can use these parikarmas. I have presented from the day-to-day transaction point of view. Of course, this has been stated towards reaching this highest yogic goal of kaivalya.
So Mahodaya, will take one last question, because this is a very serious question. Even I personally feel that. So that now we have a lot of sessions going on across the globe in the name of mindfulness. So would that be part of Chittashuddhi, or is it something beyond Chittashuddhi, or is it a subset of Chittashuddhi? Question.
Yeah. Again, mindfulness means being. I actually mentioned about the context of mindfulness, being acutely aware of what one is doing. That is mindfulness. So these parikarmas, when we do gradually, so we examine our emotions. When we do the parikarma of pranayama, prachardana vidharana, we become mindful of our breath and body. And each of these parikarma, they explore each and every layer and makes us mindful of each of our layer. So that in a sense can be equated. If the word, the mindfulness is a word that is now a popular or common term which is popular. So if this has to be labeled as mindfulness, well, this can also be labeled as mindfulness, because it brings in the awareness of us to all these layers, including our own dreams and also deep sleep. We become aware. When we become aware, we understand the quality and we understand where we are, and then we can chalk out the direction in which we have to progress.
Thank you, Mahodaya. So before we wind up, guys, I have two important requests. One is to fill up the feedback form and give it to us. And one is also, that there is in the feedback form you have the donation details in case you want to make some donations. And I have one very, very important thing to tell. So tomorrow we have Sahitya Academy winner 2019 in the field of in the language of Sanskrita, Dr. Madhusudana or Professor Madhusudana Penna coming and delivering a talk. And I should also mention this. It was Jayaraman Mahadevan who directed us towards Professor Madhusudana Penna, and we have as we have requested him, and he has agreed to be with us. So it will be one more mind-boggling session like we had today, very enlightening sessions. And please pass on this word to everybody whom you know who are interested in the field of yoga. And let me also add one last point before you wind up. Chittashuddhi is core to the entire Indian philosophy. If there is something unique which has been contributed to the world by Hindu, the entire Hindu principle or the Hinduism as such, it's Chittashuddhi. So these are things which are to be celebrated. These are things which are to be really glorified, and which have to be very great pride. We have to share them with the right people, and we need to bring in more people. So we have had very healthy participation. We had about 250 people across two medias. One is Zoom, and of course one is YouTube. Thanking you all once again. Thanking Jayaraman Mahodaya for this wonderful talk. We'll end the session with Shanti Mantra. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Yes, we'll definitely pass on the presentation of Jayaraman Mahodaya to all those people who enrolled for this program. And once we do that, I think it will be helpful to all of you to introspect in the upcoming days using Mahodaya's presentation. Yes. Thank you once again, Jayaramanji. You had a very fruitful beginning and an auspicious beginning through you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.